Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to first tell everybody that tonight's classes are my classes and the Revinson's classes. Today, Eeyore, the 23rd, are sponsored by Janet and Peter Rutherford, and it's in honor of their 30th wedding anniversary. So we wish them mazel tov on that, and to have many, many more wonderful years together, healthy with our shul, with all of Klal Yisrael. So the topic for tonight is about a week and a half ago or so. I don't remember exactly when, but I mentioned a very profound teaching from Rav Tzadok HaKohen about the crowns that all the Jews got at Sinai. And we explained how is it possible that everybody can be a king and everybody can have a crown. If you have a crown, it means you're a king. If you're a king, then others are not a king. How does everybody have a king? So we brought from Rav Tzadok. He says that every single Jew who ever lived has a particular strength that they bring into the creation, and these are the crowns of Matan Torah, that every Jew has a crown, some point of greatness that distinguishes him or her and makes them higher and more exalted than everyone else in terms of holiness and that particular virtue that others don't have. Which is actually saying that every Jew has this incredible, unique talent and mission that nobody else has. And that was the crown. And that we explain in the terms of kavod. That's why you should be giving kavod to other people, because they have this unique quality you don't have and that unique mission that you don't have. And you'll have your own self-esteem because you realize that you have that own mission. So I want to develop this idea a lot more because, of course, after such a talk, what is the standard question that's on everybody's mind? Okay, Rabbi, great. So we all got this crown at Sinai. Would you like to tell me what my unique mission is? What sets me apart from everybody else? As we said, Hashem doesn't create two people to do the same thing. So if you are brought onto this planet, you were brought here to do something that nobody else is going to do. And the question is, what is that unique mission that one has? Now, some people think they have the answer, but often many people ask this question. And how can you be sure it's the right mission that you have? So can you help me understand how I can find out what my mission is? And many people also ask, for many people, they find it very hard to know what that mission is. And they go through their whole lives searching for it. And why is it so hard for us to find out what that mission is? So we'll just start with a little short vignette, start with the last Lubavitcher Rebbe, who once sent a Jewish activist, Reb Zev Siegel, on a mission. And it was a very difficult assignment. And when this Reb Siegel came back, he made sure to convey that fact to the Rebbe that it was not an easy mission. Wasn't complaining, just saying it was a hard mission. So the Rebbe responded and said, since when do you make a contract with the Almighty for an easy life? So in other words, okay, sometimes you have harder missions, sometimes you have easier missions. So how do we find out what our mission is, and why is it so hard to find out that mission? Of course, we're born into certain families. We're born with certain talents and personalities and certain circumstances, which can help us figure out the clues to what our mission is. I mean, on a simple level, if a person's very musical or artistic or creative, it's likely that maybe it would be to play music for others and help other people, possibly. Well, clearly, if a person is struggling financially, it's probably not his mission to build a Jewish institution. So, but still, it's pretty hard to figure it out. And David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Perek Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Chav Gimel, Me Hashem mitzadei gover konenu v'darko yechpatz. The steps of man are directed by Hashem, and he desires his way. Which the Meforshim explain that Hashem's supervision usually prods us in this direction that we need to go in order to fulfill our mission. So he shouldn't feel that you got this mission and you're on your own and good luck. No, Hashem is there to prod us on with that mission. But again, quite often we don't know what it is. Maybe for many, many years we don't know what it is. And why is it so? So I'm going to give a simple answer first, and then we're going to take a much deeper answer. The simple answer could be, on many levels, that the struggle is in itself part of the test. In other words, it's really easy when you know exactly what you have to do, and you do it. But Hashem doesn't want us to be malachim. He doesn't need malachim. He has plenty of them. And part of our mission is doing our best even though we're moving in the dark, so to speak. So it's like lafum tzara agra. The more effort, the more reward. So if it was so easy to know what your mission was, then you just would do it. And of course, Hashem wants to give us a lot of reward, so it's got to come a little more challenging. More than that, let's say if let's say you know what your true mission was. Whatever, let's say it's to teach little children Torah. Well, then you'd most certainly focus all your efforts in that direction. But that might come at the expense of excluding yourself from other things, other obligations you have to fulfill. And there's a strong possibility that you might neglect other mitzvah opportunities that you don't feel fit into your main mission. You can get overly focused on your main mission and disregard other things. As the Mishnah Perkei Avos says, you have to run to a light mitzvah as much as a big mitzvah because you never know the reward. So if you were told this is exactly your mission, it might come to the exclusion of other things, which may not necessarily be the totality of the person. And furthermore, sometimes something seemingly inconsequential can really have very important and far-reaching results for us. So we don't know what our mission is. We always look at everything as maybe I was made for this, maybe I was made for that. When an opportunity comes and we're never so sure, well, no, this isn't my mission, I don't want to bother with this. Never know what is important, what's not important. And you could say, and we want you to say, who knows if it wasn't for this moment in time you were created. So sometimes it's better not to know, because then you'll keep on moving, trying to find what that mission is. So those are generic answers that are okay. But I want to take something much deeper based on a Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon is on his Be'er, his Perish on Mishlei, in Perek Tes Zayin, dealing with Psukim Aleph to Dalet. I don't have the time to go in depth what the Vilna Gaon says. You should look it up yourself. It's a very beautiful piece. Again, Perek Tes Zayin and Mishlei, Be'er HaGra, first 4 Psukim. But this is the gist of what he says when he explains the 4 Psukim. And he says like this. He says this Yesod that we already know, that everybody has this mission in life. As we know, the Gemara says, just like there's 600,000 Jews, and every Jew looks different, just like everybody looks different. They have different ideologies. They have different missions to do. They don't have the same natures. So then they all have different missions. So he says, when we had prophets, so the prophet who had legitimate prophecy, and he could look into your soul and know what the root of your soul was. And he could know the future, and he knows a lot more than what we just see with our eyes. So he could estimate in this person, and he could say, you know what? This is what your mission is. And that's how things used to be. When Nevuah ceased, what happened? So the Vilna Gaon says there's something that we understand is called Ruach HaKodesh, which poorly translates into English, divine spirit. And he says that every person has Ruach HaKodesh. Every Jew is capable of Ruach HaKodesh. This is not Nevuah at all. However, that only can come to a person who's very wholesome, is 100% sincere with his relationship with Hashem. He's really worked through his midos and can really say he's extremely objective about understanding who he is and what his potentials are and what does Hashem want from him. And there was a time when the person's own Ruach HaKodesh would move him to that direction. But then this Vilna Gaon says, but who could say that they have such a pure spirit? And who could say that maybe it's just personal interest which may guide you? And therefore he says, nowadays we don't have people with this kind of Ruach HaKodesh. And therefore he says, since we don't have this Ruach HaKodesh, all we can do is do what we know Hashem wants us to do. 613 mitzvahs, do the positive mitzvahs, stay away from the Averos, and just do the Ratzon Hashem. And what do we know the Ratzon Hashem is? To do mitzvahs. And that's the best that we could do. It would appear that that's what the Vilna Gaon seems to say. And Hashem will reward us for this. So Shlomo Volbe, in his Sefer Alei Shor, the first volume, on page 167, he says, from this Vilna Gaon, we see a couple things. He says, first of all, there are three distinct historical eras concerning this idea. And yes, there was the era when the prophets clearly knew the nature of our soul and would tell us this is what our avodas Hashem is. Then later came this idea of Ruach HaKodesh. But again, it was associated with great danger, because if your spiritual state isn't pure, you'd end up establishing a path of service to Hashem based on your biases and subjective feelings. And that could lead you to do things that might be only for your interest, not Hashem's interest. And therefore, he says we go to this third era, which we call the modern era, where it appears that nobody even tries to establish his unique path in serving Hashem. And instead, we concern ourselves entirely with whether our deeds fit according to what Hashem's will is. But then Rav Volbe says, but if you look carefully in the words of the Gra never says that now we don't have the ability to go in the path of greatness. And it doesn't mean to say that we're not capable of reaching our specific goal in life. But it just means, what the Vilna Gaon is saying is that we just can't use the method of Ruach HaKodesh. We don't have that because we're too subjective because of our biases. So therefore, only thing we know for sure is the mitzvahs that Hashem gives us and to go according to Hashem's will. That we could say for sure. But the Vilna Gaon never said that we shouldn't try to find out what our unique mission is. But again, it is much more difficult to find out what that mission is. And that becomes the trick. So what are some, so it's understood that Vilna Gaon is explaining why it is so. Why in terms of the way the world has devolved, that we're so not in tune with our souls, and we have so many biases in this world, it's very hard for us to honestly look at ourselves and be in touch with that Ruach HaKodesh that we could have to know what our mission is in life. But doesn't mean to say it's impossible. So I'd like to list a few things. Now, of course, such a weighty topic in 1.5 hours, you're not going to get all the answers to this deep subject, but let's just look at a direction that we need to focus on and where we have to go on. First point is we have to realize that the only time we got the crowns was after we said Nasa v'nishma, where Nasa v'nishma means, even though we don't know what you're going to tell us to do, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're in it completely. We're going to do whatever you tell us to do. All we want to do is the Ratzon Hashem. You tell us the Ratzon Hashem, and we will do it. It wasn't like the non-Jewish countries that said, let us know what's in it, we'll decide if we want it. It came with a wholesome desire, not even knowing how hard it would be. Some mitzvahs could really be very difficult, like Shemitah, what will we eat in the 7th year kind of mitzvah. Just it doesn't matter. We're all in. So once we accepted the Torah and we committed to whatever Hashem is going to tell us in the Torah, we're going to do it. That's when Hashem gave us the crown. He didn't give us the crown after we said, well, tell us a little bit and we'll see if we agree or not. See if we agree or not, Hashem says, you ain't ever going to get any crowns. It has to start with number one, that you mamish going to accept whatever Hashem wants us to do. If you don't have that attitude, that I want to do every possible mitzvah that Hashem is sending my way, no matter how difficult it is, even though I don't even know what it is yet, and I'm going to search and search and search to know what the true Ratzon Hashem is, you don't get any crowds. So that's number one. So then already everyone has to think, do we really want to do the complete Ratzon of Hashem? If we have other Ritzonos, other desires, then you're not going to find that way. Let me maybe give a mashal to make it a little clearer. There is an idea in university that if you want to grow in the academic world and for your own personal growth in terms of making parnasa, sometimes you have a wet behind the ears high school graduate and they say, what do you want to do in life? What do you want to make parnasa from? The person says, I don't know. So the theory is, I'm not saying how true it is, but the theory is you go get yourself a Bachelor of Arts. Why do you get a Bachelor of Arts? Because you see what's out there. See everything. You look a little bit in the math world, the sciences, look in the arts, look in the social services. There's so much out there. Expose yourself to a lot of things. And then something within you, you'll feel a little gravitational pull to that. And then you'll take higher level courses in that area and you'll see if that's something that resonates with you. And hopefully by the time you get your bachelor's, you're majoring in a certain area. Then you're going to go into the specializations. And then the person will figure out, now that I know more of what's out there and I'm beginning to feel, so this is the area I'm going to go to. In other words, you don't go for the PhD in a specific area of specialty if you haven't gone through the basics. So the same thing over here. There are real basics of Yiddishkeit. There are basics of Yiddishkeit, basic hashkafas in Yiddishkeit. 13 animamins, 6 constant mitzvahs, all 613 mitzvahs, where each one parallels, is a spiritual root, another part of who you are. And really only when you have, and that what we'll call is like the bachelor's of arts, so to speak, lahavdol, in Torah. You got to get a bachelor's. And you're getting a bachelor's by knowing Kol HaTorah Kula, exposing yourself to Kol HaTorah Kula, doing all the mitzvahs, having the right hashkafas achayim. For example, like we're learning in Mesilas Yesharim, to understand, it makes a big difference. If you believe that this world is just an antechamber for an eternal existence, it's going to make a whole big difference than if you hold that this world is the main thing. And certain just general hashkafas to really 100% be on the right page in terms of how you view the world is critical to know what's going to be your goal in life, what Hashem created you for. Clearly, Hashem did not create any of us just to make money. He didn't create us for that purpose. It might be a means to a greater end, perhaps, but not as a goal, just to amass more money. But if you feel that that's what life's all about, and the most covet that you get, and that's going to be your goal in life, well, you're way off base. So therefore, you've got to first be committed to the Torah. And that's why it says, Yisrael v'araisa v'kuchabrichu chad, who the Zohar says, the Jewish people, Hashem and the Torah are one, which means, how does a Jew know who he really is? He's in the divine image of Hashem, but how do we know what that is? And how do we know how to emulate Hashem? It's through the Torah, which is Hashem's ideology of world. So if we don't really have a good understanding of Torah and Jewish hashkafa, then it's not likely you're going to know what your purpose in life is. There's also another thing, as this is what all the Sphira is about. We know that a Jew's neshama is gifted with 10 divine characteristics that emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is way beyond what we could talk about, but you have Chachma, Bina, V'das in the realm of the intellect, and then in the emotions from Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, all the way down to Malchus, which are lower class midos in terms of how do we do divine kindness? How do we have divine control? And we have to develop all those midos because that is part of the Jewish personality. our ultimate goal in life isn't just the physical body's goal in life. It's who we totally are. And who we totally are is primarily our neshama. And for us to be in touch with our neshamas, we have to really know what the 7 midos intrinsically within ourselves are. And that's the whole point of Sfiras HaOmer, to work on all these midos, to develop them properly as Derech Eretz is Kadma Torah. We can develop those midos. And once you develop those midos, these are all the preparatory steps. Then when the missions present themselves, you'll be spiritually attuned to opportunities that are placed before you. If you don't understand what divine chesed is, then certain opportunities can be put in front of your lap and you don't even know that that's an opportunity. If you think that you're really here just to make money and to be a nice person and to, pass on Yiddishkeit to the next generation, then certain opportunities come your way, but, that could be the very divine mission you have, but it doesn't really fit into what your short-term missions and superficial missions are. So if we really don't have a good understanding of who we are, we're not going to be able to understand that. And probably the most important thing is you have to be flexible enough to allow Hashem to move you towards your mission. You may have decided there's certain things you think you're going to do in life, and then Hashem either makes it difficult to achieve those things, or these things fall through, or somebody happens to meet you and introduces you to an idea, and you say, I don't know if I could do that, but it's really a good thing to do. And you can't have your life set in stone that this is what I was planning and I'm not going to do anything else. Because remember, Hashem at the end of the day has the plans. He's the one who's setting your path. And it could be very surprising. It may not be what you thought it was supposed to be in life. I can just say for myself that when I was in yeshiva, when I was back in Cleveland over 40 years ago, and I said, I think I'd like to be able to be in chinuch and teach little children Torah. But that's what I thought I wanted to do. And the Rosh Hashiva said it's a good idea to do that. And indeed, when I came to Toronto 36 years ago, I did teach in Jewish day schools. And Baruch Hashem, I had a tzlacha doing that for about 11 years. But then certain opportunities came up. Certain volunteer opportunities came up. And as a Rebbe in a Jewish day school, I was plenty busy not making a parnasa and working so hard. And volunteering isn't exactly an easy thing. But there's certain things my Rosh Hashiva told me to do when I left. He says, always make sure you give a shiur, make sure you're involved in a higher level learning, even though you're teaching little children, et cetera, et cetera. And certain opportunities came, and I would go for those opportunities. And the last thing I would have thought in 1984, or for that matter, even in 1995, was that one day I'd be the rabbi of a kiruv shul. I never thought that that would be my mission in life. And I don't have time to tell you my whole life story, as interesting as it might be, or maybe boring, I don't know. But you have to be willing to do certain things, volunteer certain things, and you got to let Hashem move things. I thought I'd be a Rebbe in Eitz Chaim all my life. I'd be a lifer. And I was hoping one day maybe to be the principal. I was working for that to make my mark in the world of chinuch. But then when somebody asks you, would you like to volunteer for Eshet Torah? They have this program, a discovery program. Would you like to volunteer and learn about it? I said, yeah, why not? We should try this. And kiruv was the last thing on my mind. And it was a bit of a learning curve to look at things in a different way, so to speak. But that's where it ended up taking me. And I could have just said, no, I'm not interested. I'm busy enough not making a parnasa. I don't have no time to volunteer on top of not making parnasa. But you have to be a little bit flexible. And then you end up, you spend, I don't know how many years it is already, 25 years in this area, which also tends to suggest another thing. Doesn't mean to say you have one reason, one special talent, one mission in life only. You could have a mission when you're a young adult. You can have a mission when you're in middle age. And you can have a different mission when you get older. And you have another mission when you're retired. There's no such thing as one mission. There are so many missions you can have in life, but you have to have that flexibility in order to understand that. And it's really important that you accomplish this mission, because the Sfarim HaKadoshim write, and you don't even need to go to the holiest mystical books. It's a Beferish Mishnah Brura from the Chavetz Chaim, the Shar HaTziyun. In chapter 622, Taf Reish Chaf Beis, Os Vav. He says a person many times despairs of not being able to fix up his midos. And he concludes that Hashem decrees that he's going to die of failure and not repairing certain midos. And he just gives up. And Chavetz Chaim says it's a big mistake, because if you don't fix up what you're meant to fix up, you have certain midos that aren't so good. If you don't fix them up, when you leave this world, you're going to have to be sent back into this world again and again and again until you fix it up. He brings the proof from Yonah, the prophet Yonah, who did not want to do what Hashem wanted him to do. And the whole story of Yonah, till he had to eventually do it, there's all kinds of mystical understandings that Vilna Gaon goes through in great detail about Gilgal and all this. And that's why it says in Pirkei Avos, don't view the grave as a refuge, because you're born against your will, you live against your will, you die against your will, and against your will, you'll have to justify your actions before Hashem. So really, accomplishing the mission is incredibly important. You don't want to have to come back. And he touched on this idea of certain midos. And the Vilna Gaon says one of the reasons we're brought into this world is to fix our midos that are in need of obvious repair. And the Vilna Gaon in Sefer Yonah says, how do you know? How do you know what you're meant to fix up in this world? He says there's one of two signs. One sign, if a certain Avera, you keep stumbling over it again and again. That means it's something you messed up the first time around in a previous Gilgal, and you still have to fix it up. Or let's say you haven't really done the Avera, but you got a drive, a taiva for this. Some people have a bigger drive in one area to sin, and some in others. Which means to say that the easiest way to find out what your mission in life is to start, the easiest way is what's the matter with me? You have a temper? Baruch Hashem. We've already begun to find the first step in the mission. Let's work on that temper. Whatever your flaw is, remember, a bad midah, there's no such thing as a bad midah. It's just a good midah in the wrong place. That's a big yesod in Hasidus. It's that, a person, God forbid, let's say involved in arayos, real immoral behavior. That's a bad thing, but it means he's a passionate fellow. Now, if he would be just as passionate about Yiddishkeit as he is about the secretary at work, he could really do a lot with his Yiddishkeit. Sometimes only when you fall do you realize what kochos you have for the wrong. If you can repair it and channel it for the good, that will tell you exactly where you're supposed to be. And that's what Ramchal and Derech Hashem says, that a person gives, Hashem presents us with many opportunities to practice developing our midos. How? By placing us in situations tailor-made for the unique midos that are challenged by this, and that we're meant to do something that's very difficult. We're accustomed to thinking like this: I was faced with a specific challenge, and therefore I needed to respond in a certain way. Incorrect. The reality is the opposite. I needed to respond in a certain way, and therefore I was faced with a specific challenge. You see, and the Hasidic Sfarim write, if you have a certain goal in life, Hashem is going to have you meet people. They're going to challenge you in those midos. If you're the type of person, again, just using anger as the simple example, He'll always bring people that will get you upset until you finally deal with it. Now you could say, you know what? This boss got me upset. I'm quitting. So you know what happens? You go to another boss. He makes you twice as upset. You're going to quit again and again till you're going to have to draw the line and say, okay, I got to just stop this temper. You can't get along with your spouse. You get divorced. What happens? You marry someone else? Twice as hard. Why? Because Hashem wants you to work on that. And what happens is, the beauty of this is, those flaws, once you can repair them, they're going to open up the strengths that have been misdirected. And you'll be able to use it in ways that will be very helpful. So I would suggest that the easiest place to start is because we all, myself included, have abundant flaws because Hashem made us that way. Don't take it personally. He made us that way. And Hashem says, okay, that is the first thing you're meant to do. Don't ask any questions. You got to work on that. And on top of trying to do all the mitzvahs you can and working on all our mitos. And then when you work hard enough, and of course, we cannot forget davening to Hashem to help us find this. Then you'll see that Hashem will bring situations to you that you never thought existed, and you'll find out that that's what you were made for. But if you refuse to fix up the flaws that you have, those situations can present themselves and you don't even realize it as a potential situation because you're so bogged down in your little sphere, you don't notice anything beyond it, opportunities that are there. But that's clearly what we have to be misspalled for. And that really is what Shavuos is all about. Shavuos, the Sfarim HaKadoshim write, the holy rabbi said, many people are worried about on Rosh Hashanah what's going to be. But the great rabbi said, I'm much more worried on Shavuos what's going to be than on Rosh Hashanah. Because Rosh Hashanah is the Rosh Hashanah, the day of judgment for Gashmias, basically. While Shavuos is the Rosh Hashanah for Ruchnias. And how much you're going to love learning Torah, and how much you're going to love davening, and how much you're going to love and trying to find your mission in life is decided on Shavuos and not at Rosh Hashanah. And that's when we say Nasa v'Nishma. We say to Hashem, we open ourselves up and say, Hashem, I really want to know what my goal is. And I'm going to start by saying all the mitzvahs you're giving me, I want to do them. And I'm going to be committed to do all those mitzvahs to get my bachelor's in Yiddishkeit. And then I'm going to work on midas. I'm going to look at the midas that really need to be corrected. And when you work on those midas, you will see that situations, you're going to open yourself up to a whole new vista of opportunities that you would not even know. And therefore, I cannot give you a direct answer. Do this, this, and that, and this is what's going to happen. It's, so to speak, a magic that comes out when the neshama is exposed to what its full potential is. So Hashem should help us with this as a start. This is not meant as the whole answer, but as a starting point for us to think before Shavuos what areas we want to work on to begin to reach these levels. And of course, always to have an objective third party to run your ideas by them, that they could tell you if you're on the right path or if you're not. Okay, thank you for listening, and God willing, we'll see you all tomorrow. Again, we want to thank Janet and Peter Rudifer for sponsoring all the classes, my classes tonight and the Rebbitzins classes, and they should have many, many wonderful years of continued marital bliss. Amen. Okay, thank you all for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a good evening, Rabbi.
Okay, take care.